package for today, Tuesday, 8th January 2019. In our lead stories nationally, Dr. Denzil Douglas parliamentary disqualification case returns to court this week, and long-term drought concerns in St. Kitts and Nevis and a number of other Caribbean countries. Regionally, another Trinidadian captured fighting for ISIS. Internationally, Turkey says U.S. backing of Kurds is unacceptable. And in sports, football sex accused dies in crash on day of abuse trial. We'll have the details to these and other stories after this message.
Another look.
Different from how you've seen it before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, Vaughan.
Welcome back. Another national news in detail. The case relating to Dr. Denzil Douglas holding a diplomatic passport from the Commonwealth of Dominica heads back to court on Thursday, January 10, 2019. The Team Unity administration has moved to the court to have it declared that Dr. Douglas has vacated his seat in the National Assembly by holding a diplomatic passport of the Commonwealth of Dominica. The constitutional motion also seeks an injunction to restrain Dr. Douglas from taking part in the proceedings of the National Assembly. The parliamentary disqualification case had its first hearing in the High Court on February 26, 2018, before Justice Trevor Ward QC, and is now at trial stage with the summoning and presentation of experts on Dominican law as it relates to questions of allegiance. The claimants have 2 experts and the defendant has 1. Dr. Douglas, in an affidavit filed in the High Court Registry on February 21, 2018, admitted to holding a diplomatic passport of the Commonwealth of Dominica, DP 000462, which he has used to travel on April 23, 2016. Dr. Douglas also admitted to filing out and signing an application form for the diplomatic passport he holds, which is valid until July 29, 2020. Dr. Douglas is represented by Mr. Sylvester Anthony, Ms. Angelina Soku, and Delano Bart QC, led by Mr. Anthony Astafan SC. Team Unity's lawyer include Ms. Taliba Byron, Mr. Michael Kwama, and Mr. McClure Taylor, led by Mr. Douglas Mendez, SC. The Barbados-based Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, CIMH, says there is a long-term drought concern in St. Kitts and Nevis and a number of other Caribbean countries. In its brief climate outlook for the Caribbean, CIMH notes that April to June marks the transition from the dry to the wet season. CIMH, in its Caribbean Climate Outlook released today, Tuesday, 8th January 2019, said that with an El Nino on forecast, chances of drought and recurrent dry spells during the dry season are increased and that region-wide extreme drought is unlikely. It said wet days and wet spells are expected to become least frequent by March and that temperatures will be seasonably comfortable at least through February and start rising thereafter. It said temperatures will at times become uncomfortably hot for vulnerable portions of the population. Moreover, forecasts suggest warmer than usual temperatures with the possibility of heat waves in May. As we move into 2019, the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis continues to be plagued by gun violence. Police are currently investigating another shooting incident which is reported to have occurred on Monday, 7th January on St. Kitts. According to police reports, 3 individuals were shot on the said day sometime after 9 p.m. in the St. Paul's area. They all received gunshot injuries to the leg. This is the 3rd shooting incident to occur in the Federation thus far for the year. On January 1st, Jelani Liebert and Keon Moore received gunshot injuries about the body at about 6 a.m. while in the Stony Grove area on Nevis. The 2nd shooting incident occurred on January 5th, sometime after 2 p.m. in the Newtown area on St. Kitts, where a young man was shot in the leg. Police are investigating all 3 incidents. Friday, January 11, 2019, will mark the 262nd birthday of Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton, the first U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, was born in 1757 on the island of Nevis. A number of activities will be held here on Nevis and in United States of America. On Friday, January 11th, the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society and the Nevis Island Administration Community Development Department will jointly host the annual Alexander Hamilton Tea Party and Scholarship Awards ceremony at the Alexander Hamilton Museum grounds on the Samuel Hunkins Drive. The Nevis Historical and Conservation Society, NHCS, is the custodian of the Alexander Hamilton Museum. Alexander Hamilton scholarships will be awarded to 4 new high school students. 15 students are currently benefiting from the fund, which was established in 1966 by the Trott family to assist deserving students with uniform, books, and other school supplies. Making Nevis more economically stable. That is one of the Mark Brantley-led Concerned Citizens Movement CCM Nevis Island Administration goals for the new fiscal year.
We will continue to improve the economic environment and incentivize investors to establish and expand their businesses. Such measures will help to grow our economy, broaden our revenue base, improve our fiscal capacity, and reinforce our economic resilience.
In the 2019 Budget 2018 theme, harnessing the synergies of innovation and entrepreneurship while increasing global competitiveness to achieve our socio-economic goals, the Finance Minister outlined some of the areas that his administration will focus on to see this growth for the island.
We must now redouble our efforts to promote Nevis as an attractive destination for investment and build awareness among high net worth individuals of the various investment products offered to the Nevis financial services sector and foreign direct investment generally. We are of the view that the private sector must be the key growth partner of the future. Therefore, we will continue our ongoing discussions and dialogue with key stakeholder partners in the tourism and construction industry, along with representatives of the financial services and banking sector and the Chamber of Industry and Commerce in Nevis. We believe that it is important to have joint public-private sector partnership if we are to drive policy which advances our island and achieves the level of growth in economic activity as anticipated.
Honorable Mark Brantley. In his New Year's message, Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, noted that plans are being put in place for the start of the Technical and Vocational Education Training TVET program here on Nevis.
In 2019, you will see the start of the TVET construction phase at the Gingerland and at the Charlestown secondary schools. This will be a bold step in ensuring that our citizens are prepared to meet the needs of a modern and a progressive Nevis, and to compete successfully in the world of tomorrow.
Meanwhile, while making his contribution to the NIA budget debate, Junior Minister of Education spoke to one of the areas under the TVET program.
The Ministry of Education received 190 desktop computers, 50 laptop computers, and 6 projectors. These are to be distributed between the 2 government high schools at Nevis. As a matter of fact, Mr. President, we are supposed to be refurbishing the main computer lab at the Gingerland Secondary School, and we are supposed to be outfitting a new room as a computer lab at the Gingerland Secondary School to accommodate some of these 190 desktops.
The junior minister also spoke of the specific preparations under the program.
The TVET project calls for some major renovation work to be done on the technical wing of the Charlestown Secondary School, and that wing is the area that houses the main computer labs at Charlestown Secondary School. So we would need to get that renovation work done first before we get those computers in there. Nonetheless, there are other labs at Charlestown Secondary School that will receive upgraded computers shortly.
Honorable Troy Liburd. Finally, as the Ministry of Sport pushes to increase sports tourism-related arrivals, refurbishment of sporting facilities across St. Kitts will continue in the coming weeks and months. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Sports, the Honorable Sean Richards, said that to ensure our readiness to effectively host local and regional competitions, our sporting facilities will continue to be upgraded. In 2019, there were several competitions in football, netball, and cricket that resulted in various teams and their fans coming to the island, and as a result, officials then sought to plan to enhance the beauty of the island. Upgrades at the island's premier track and field facility, Kim Collins Athletic Stadium, including constructing a building to host a call room and additional bathrooms. Enhancements to the outdoor sport lighting project at the Warner Park Cricket Stadium will be implemented, and lighting will be added to the Saddlers playing field. That's our national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vonradio.com or our Facebook page at Von Radio and our Von Radio YouTube channel. News from across the region is next.
Personal as well as your business needs, and we're here to help. Our knowledgeable staff will work with you to help you achieve the financial success that you or your company needs in a competitive market. We offer solutions that make your banking experience easier, like our savings and checking accounts. Be sure to ask about our youth savers accounts and our Bank of Nevis Gold Club. We offer a wide range of personal loans, including mortgage, land, student, auto, and consumer loans. Have access to your funds instantly with our Be-Online internet banking and our debit and credit cards. We make international banking and investing easy. How's your business? Give it the leverage it really needs by letting the Bank of Nevis assist you with all the necessary funding for all your business expenses. It's that easy. What are you waiting for? The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life.
Like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/The Bank of Nevis.
Welcome back, and now the regional news in detail. Out of Trinidad, one of the men who appeared in an Islamic State in Iraq and Syria ISIS video speaking about life in Trinidad and Tobago has been captured fighting with ISIS in Syria. Several international news agencies, including the BBC and New York Times, name him as 35-year-old Saad Abed Al-Hamid, the Trinidad Guardian reported. Al-Hamid is believed to have dual U.S. and Trinidadian citizenship. The New York Times reported that his name appears in a database of 130 Trinidadians who joined the Islamic State that is maintained by Simon Cotte, a senior lecturer in criminology at the University of Kent who tracks the group. Hamid has been identified as an extremist since at least 2011, the report said. According to Coty's database, Hamid joined the terrorist group on April 6, 2014, along with his wife and his 3 children, The Guardian reported. He appeared in an ISIS video sitting by a stream speaking about how his family could not practice their faith in Trinidad. Out of Guyana. Guyana Minister of Foreign Affairs Carl Greenidge, while speaking in Parliament on the recent interdiction by the Venezuelan Navy of ExxonMobil vessels doing seismic surveys in Guyana's water during the Christmas holidays, also disclosed that during the incident, the Venezuelan Navy attempted to land a helicopter on one of the ships, the Ramford Tethys, in an attempt to seize the vessel entirely. The Ramford Tethys, owned by the Norwegian company Petroleum Geoservice Group, flagged in the Bahamas, is a Titan-class seismic research platform designed specifically for conducting seismic research and underwater imaging for oil companies. ExxonMobil has ceased operations on behalf of the Guyanese government until further notice. The Ramford Tethys is a military-grade ship, neither is it a surveillance or reconnaissance vessel, and was given permission to conduct seismic studies in the Guyana Essequibo River region by the Guyanese government. Out of Cuba. Cuba will develop an integrated digital platform this year in order to facilitate foreign trade operations, which will be linked to the simplification of procedures for the export and import of goods. The Single Window of Foreign Trade, VUCE by its Spanish acronym, will provide information and will allow managing through electronic means the required approvals for the entry and exit of the products. According to Vivian Herrera, an official in the Ministry of Foreign Trade and Foreign Investment, the implementation of VUCE will go through several phases due to its complexity and should be fully operational by the end of 2019. The establishment of the window, she added, responds to the commitment to trade facilitation contracted by the Cuban government before the World Trade Organization, WTO, and has the technical assistance of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. This will mean an important step forward, as until now only the electronic single window systems at the General Customs Office and the one at the Mariel Special Development Zone were operating, Herrera said. Finally, out of the Bahamas. The Netherlands never contacted the Bahamian government regarding its concerns on tax matters before adding the Bahamas to the blacklist, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Peter Turnquest said last week, adding that the Bahamas is concerned about this kind of unilateral action by a country. Turnquest, who was speaking at a press conference at the office of the Prime Minister, said the action by the Dutch is tantamount to a country on its own accord, applying a different standard to tax matters than those of the European Union, EU, a body of which it is a part. Turnquest said the government has worked hard to align itself with standards set by the EU, and he said the EU has been very clear about those standards. The Bahamas recently introduced legislation aimed at moving this country away from the tax haven stigma and leveling the playing field. The legislation put together by the government and the financial services sector was scrutinized by the EU. Anguilla, Bermuda, the British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands, and the Turks and Caicos Islands were also among the countries added to the Dutch blacklist, according to an article in the St. Martin newspaper, the Daily Herald. That's it for our regional stories. Stay with us for news around the world. Welcome back, and now the international news in detail. Turkey's president has strongly rejected U.S. calls for his country to protect Kurdish fighters in Syria. President Erdogan said such statements made by U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton at the weekend were unacceptable. Mr. Bolton is in Turkey to seek guarantees that Kurds fighting Islamic State IS in northern Syria will be safe after a planned U.S. pullout. Turkey regards the Kurdish YPA militia fighting IS militants as terrorists. Mr. Erdogan told MPs from his AK party that Turkey could not accept and swallow Mr. Bolton's message.
Those who are part of the terror corridor in Syria will receive the necessary lesson. There's not a single difference between the PKK, YPG, PYD and Daesh.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has arrived in Beijing for an unannounced visit at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping. Mr. Kim will be in China until 10th January with his wife, Ri Sol-ju, according to state media reports. The visit comes amid reports that negotiations are underway for a second summit between Mr. Kim and U.S. President Donald Trump. The two met last June, the first such meeting for a sitting U.S. president. The Palestine Authority PA says it is pulling its staff out of the Rafah border crossing between the Gaza Strip and Egypt, effectively closing the main exit point from the coastal territory. A statement accused the militant group Hamas, which controls Gaza, of harassing and detaining PA employees. Hamas said the move amounted to additional sanctions on the people of Gaza by the West Bank-based PA. More in this report.
The border crossing had been due to reopen after a public holiday for Orthodox Christmas. However, the Egyptian authorities are now only allowing Palestinians to return to Gaza from Egypt. Those inside the territory are not allowed to exit. The Palestinian Authority took the decision to pull its staff out in protest at what it called brutal practices against its workers by Hamas. The PA had taken control of Rafah over a year ago, following a reconciliation deal it agreed with its political rivals. The agreement has since broken down, and the PA has imposed a series of sanctions on Gaza.
Finally, 20 primary school students in Beijing have been injured in an attack at their school by a hammer-wielding man, says officials in China. The attack took place at around 11 local time at the Beijing No. 1 affiliated elementary school of Zanwu Normal School, according to state media outlet The Global Times. 3 children were reported to be seriously injured but stable. The alleged attacker has been arrested. It is not clear what motive the suspect might have had. Some reports say he was a former maintenance worker at the school. That brings us to the end of our news segments. The latest in sports is next.
Most of us spend the better part of each weekday at the workplace. So why not make your office environment the kind of setting that helps you function at your personal best by outfitting it with top quality furniture, high-end photocopiers, printers, versatile office supplies, and the latest technology. The friendly and knowledgeable staff at the TDC Business Center are happy to provide you with personalized service to help you create an office space that's the total package. TDC Business Center, providing solutions that work.
Welcome back. Another sports in detail. In football, former youth football coach Michael Kit Carson has died in a car crash on the day he was due to stand trial on sex abuse charges. Mr. Carson, 75, of St. Bartholomew's Court, Riverside, Cambridge, was accused of the sexual abuse of boys under 16 from 1978 to 2009. His Mazda left the road and hit a tree on Monday, police have said. He died at the scene. Peterborough Crown Court was informed of his death this morning. In more football news, Egypt will host the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations, the Confederation of African Football (CAF) has announced. Egypt beat South Africa, the only other nation to bid, by 16 votes to 1, with one abstention at a CAF Executive Committee vote in Senegal. Original host nation Cameroon was stripped of staging duties in November because of slow preparations. Egypt has just 6 months to prepare for the expanded 24 teams final, which kick off in June. It will be the 5th time Egypt, which won the tournament when it last hosted in 2006, has staged the tournament. Egypt will use 8 stadiums during the tournament, hosting in 5 different cities. A man has found out the hard way that it's a bad idea to try and rob an MMA athlete. UFC fighter Poliana Viana was waiting outside her Rio de Janeiro apartment on Saturday when the thief approached and threatened to take her phone. Realizing the danger, the Brazilian strawweight took matters into her own hands, using her MMA skills to knock the man down and keep him immobilized until the police arrived. Finally, in cycling, Padraig Harrington will captain Europe when they defend the Ryder Cup on U.S. soil in 2020. The Irishman, 47, was a vice-captain when Europe won the trophy back under the leadership of Thomas Bjorn in France in September. Harrington played in 6 successive Ryder Cups from 1999 and was on the winning team on 4 occasions. Players including Roy McIlroy and Justin Rose backed Harrington to lead Europe at Wisconsin. Harrington, a 3-time major championship winner, has experience of the course from PGA Championship appearances. That's it for the sports segment. The general weather forecast is next. Welcome back, and now the local weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis. Weather tonight, fair to partly cloudy with a 40% or moderate chance of showers. Winds east-northeast at 4 to 12 knots. Seas 1.2 to 1.8 meters or 4 to 6 feet. Small craft operators and sea bathers should exercise caution. Sunrise tomorrow is at 6:40 a.m. And that's how we wrap up the major news package for today, Tuesday, 8th January 2019. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Nationally, Dr. Denzil Douglas parliamentary disqualification case returns to court this week. And long-term drought concerns in St. Kitts and Nevis and a number of other Caribbean countries. Regionally, another Trinidadian captured fighting for ISIS. Internationally, Turkey says U.S. backing of Kurds is unacceptable. And in sports, football sex accused dies in crash on day of abuse trial. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Tammy Reed, wishing you a pleasant evening.